Hey there guys, this is Obsidian Chill. Got another video for you today. And in this video I wanted to address one of the most common, actually probably the most common comment I get on my channel. It directly relates to my guide series and kind of my philosophy and how I approach not only DPSing myself, but how I approach providing feedback to you guys. And that's going to be addressing the movement mode power super speed, specifically using Dervish and rotations. So if you don't know or be living under a rock, with the super speed movement power, let's go super speed here. We have Whirling Dervish. Now, Whirling Dervish, there's no way to describe this besides it just being broken and outbalanced. I mean, it's been broken before. You used to be able to clip with it. So back in the light days during DLC 3 was more popular. You could actually clip with Whirling. You can clip out of into Whirling Dervish, even though it's a damaging power. It was there for a while. So you'll see some of my old light DPS footage with that. But just addressing super speed in general. I mean, there's a reason why the majority of the game, in terms of like not even endgame DPS, but like of the vast majority super speed. I mean, it's not about character immersion. It's not about being flying through the air like Superman or skimming like what's that dude, like Static Shock, or being acrobatics like, you know, Catwoman and Batman and stuff like that. It's not about character immersion. It's just about being able to maximize your character's damage or maximize your character's potential. Flight is the slowest in combat speed. Skimming isn't that far behind it. I mean, some people just don't like acrobatics because it's a bit awkward, but I mean, acrobatics is completely fine in combat using like rocket glide and the zip tie, stuff like that. So I mean, nothing's wrong with acrobatics. I mean, I hate flight and skimming, but acrobatics is perfectly fine. It's just in terms of when you look at damage, even if you look at damage in like terms of PvP, it's just like the options you have present to a super speed far away anything else. And this is just not me talking from like a subjective point of view. I'll show you some a spreadsheet. I covered it in a video probably last year, but I'll show you the spreadsheet again just to go ahead and go into it. But I mean, when you got powers like Vortex Trap, when you can like instantly jump cancel out of it, or you can stay in the entire time and then a player can't block, or for like the Vortex Trap is one of the most common moves you're going to see in PvP, because you can just sit in Vortex Trap. If they try to block the damage because it's massive, then you just block break them. I mean, Cyclone Push is a great medium range power. Tornado Pulls is the strongest single target power. Dash Attack is an amazing supercharge. Not only gets you out of combat in terms of being able to cover great distances, but you can just block out of it and get the shield. I mean, Speed Drain is the only dot damage 25% supercharge, where like acrobatics you have to do devastating flip. Flight and skimming you have to use Gale. It's just awkward, and Gale can instantly miss. Speed Drain just much more accessible in terms of just being AoE dot. Phase Dodge is the strongest shield in the entire game. I mean, bug boost, whatever. But and then you got Dervish, so it's like there is absolutely no negative to being super speed for anything, for tanking, for even like healing, for DPSing. The only disadvantage is when you're in a situation where you're grounded, like say first boss of Trigon or Shatter Gotham, where you can't use dash attack. That's literally the only disadvantage, that you can't use that shield if you're grounded. That's it. So when you're taking a look in terms of damage, specifically Dervish using it and melee rotations, I mean, you can see the massive damage. Massive ticks, easy to proc strategist card. Let's drop Grim off this just so it's not there. But I mean, every time you use Dervish, you're guaranteed to proc multiple strategist card procs, as you just saw. And then on top of that, you can use a foot mod called Dashing Combos to get extra damage out of it. So if I go into Dervish and clip out of it right away, we'll go back into the log here. Of course, now it's proccing the so we got dash combo 17k, 17.9k, and 7k. So you've got same thing, that's just on 3 targets and it has the opportunity to crit. So there's no other movement mode power that has that. There's no other, you could go into any other foot mod. There's no other foot mod that has that type of ability. Dashing combos, you got Deadly Block and Power Glide, so you recover 2% power if you're acrobatics. Dive Bomb, same thing, recovering power. Explosive Block, you've got recover power, supercharge, swooping combos. It's the same thing. You get to perform melee attack, but at the same time, all these are melee. So like swoop attack, downdraft, low pressure, swoop attack, whirlwind. I mean, all these are just not practical to use whatsoever. and they're lower damage. And then you got Tumbling Mastery. So just dashing combos is so infinitely easy to use, and it works off Vortex Trap as well. I mean, not that you kind of carry on. In terms of mental DPS, you can have the entire duration, but same thing. So even if an ad's going to die or whatever, like I can clip off at any time. There's a 3-second cooldown. I can let it run the entire duration and then clip off at the end. Like there's so many different advantages I can take care of. And like you saw, like every single time I use it, I'm proccing the strategy card proc for extra damage on top of that, which you're not going to see with other powers. Because say for example, I'm fire. So if I use Flashpoint, yes, that's high burst damage, but that's just one hit. Same thing if I use like Wildfire, that's just one hit of damage. So, you know, it makes it infinitely easier to proc strategy card because I'm getting multiple ticks in that one window to be able to proc it. So it's not just one big burst damage. I'm getting these massive tick damages the entire time. And then yes, there's the small drawback that if an NPC dies while you're doing the Dervish, it'll stop it. But I mean, that's easy. You just change your target. Like if this target's about to die, I can just change my target reticule for the next one. And if this one dies, it won't cancel my Dervish. So I mean, the only disadvantage of Dervish you can just easily get around. So it goes back to like why would I not do a loadout video, or why would I not do a guide when I'm not going to show you the highest possible damage that you can get? Sorry, I didn't mean some of that. But I mean, let's jump to the spread. I mean, now that you see Dervish, now you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Let's jump to the spreadsheets and let's show you comparisons against the other movement mode powers. So let's jump in the spreadsheet now. Okay, so now we're in the spreadsheets. These numbers are going to be a bit off because, like I said, this was a while ago. So basically, all these tests were done at 52k might. I didn't have escalating might on. I looked up for the base damage. I had no skill points and crits. I did each attack 20 times and took an average. And then the critical damage, I did a full 60 skill points and a crit percentage and magnitude. So basically, here's my summary. So in terms of 3-target damage, I mean, Dervish, once again, well above everything else, and even Vortex Trap. So you got Dervish and Vortex Trap for super speed, well and above everything else, and that's not even including the damage from the dashing combos mod. So I could add this dashing combos mod damage to the Dervish, and this graph will be even further in terms of in favor towards Whirling Dervish. So nothing else is even close. Same thing if we look at the single target damage. Launching rolls is straight melee, so it's not really practical, but I mean it is higher damage. But I mean you're never going to be single targeting the boss doing launching rolls. I mean, maybe in like solo content, but you certainly not going to do that in a raid. The same thing, Tornado Pull. Massive increase over average base damage and critical damage. And the critical magnitude on Tornado Pulls is the highest in the game. Yes, the downside is a longer animation time, but if you're like a gadgets or mental, I mean, you're clipping it anyway, so it's pointless. And the only advantage Acrobatics has is that it has 2 3-second single target powers. So if you're like Rage or Nature where you don't have any single target powers, you could be Acrobatics and take advantage of the second single target ability. Same thing with supercharges. I mean, yeah, you're going to have more damage than other ones, but it's just like vacuum bubbles are going to miss half the time. Same thing, you can't even do it on 8 targets because it's just going to miss. And speed drain, you just pop it and forget it in the dot. And in terms of 8 target damage, Dervish is still well and above because it splits perfectly well. I mean, there's no drastic drop off in splitting damage with Dervish. Same thing with Vortex Trap. So it's just like I'm not trying to teach you, or I'm not trying to get you better to immerse your character. Like I'm not trying to make you a better, DC character or help you become like a better superhero in DC. I'm here to teach you the most competitive rotations so you can do the highest damage, because if you're a DPS, that's your role. You're looking to do the highest damage. You're not looking to kind of do cosplay damage where you're a Batman character doing like, using iconic powers like Gag Glove or like throwing knives or whatever. I mean, you could do that, but I mean, don't be surprised if the community is a bit toxic towards that, or you might get kicked. I mean, you can get away with that in like an event and stuff like that. But if you're looking to progress yourself as a character and get better at this game, this is what I'm here to teach you. I'm here to help you get better at the game, not help you immerse yourself into your character better. That's why I hate super speed, because it's Flash. It's like, well, I'm not looking at it from a Flash perspective. I'm looking at like all the super speed abilities are drastically better than everything else. I mean, I'm pushing for a change. I mean, all the time I push for a change. I mean, super speed's 100% broken. I don't want to be using movement mode powers or iconic powers really. If I'm a rage power, I want to be using rage abilities. I don't want like half my loadout to be iconic and movement mode powers just because iconic and movement mode powers are better than my actual alternatives as a power set ability. That's what I don't want. And it was never really like that in the case. In the past, yes, like some iconic powers are used, and I know artifacts are making iconic powers a bit better in terms of like transformation card on like on freezing breath. So if you get a couple for the first kind of crits on freezing breath, that's massive damage, and that's AoE. Same thing with like heat vision, soul amplifier, stuff like that. Sonic cry, setting up daze and being 360 AoE damage. So yeah, the iconic powers are really strong, but there's no need for all the movement mode powers to be like this broken. Like there's no need for us to be able to have to use like Dervish and Vortex. I mean, you saw my mental guide. I mean, the melee rotation is Vortex into Dervish, and then kind of repeat because there's really nothing else. Mental doesn't really have any like hard hitting burst damage to replace it with. So if you want to have the max damage, you're going to be using Vortex Trap and Whirling Dervish. I mean, I don't want to. I'd rather use like mental powers, but I mean, I don't have any choice. I'm not gonna like. So it's kind of like a no-win situation for me. So the most, like I said before, or I didn't say it before, but I alluded it before. The most common comment I get on my entire channel is like, what if I'm not super speed? Or it's like, what do you do if you can't use Dervish? So yes, I should be, well, I'm getting better at that, but giving like non-super speed rotations, but it kind of gets frustrating at some point because it's a no-win situation. If I do a guide, like I've done these in the past, like I've done guide videos before where I didn't use movement mode abilities, then I go around and then everyone's saying in games that, oh, obsidian rotations are trash, they're garbage. Well, they are because I'm not using Dervish or I'm not using movement mode abilities, so I'm not using the highest potential abilities. I'm not using any of these because I'm trying to make it better for everyone or more inclusive to everyone. And then I lose because everyone's saying my rotations are trash. It's like, well, I can't really defend that. Or I try to like go into some huge argument where it's like, well, I wasn't using this because of this. I wasn't using this because of this. And then it gets a convoluted conversation. So, and then if I use movement abilities, all my comments are like, all your rotations are the same, or like all your loadouts are the same. They're all like always like heat vision, robot sidekick, and like new venom boost. That's like, well, yeah. Because this is a DPS guide, and I'm trying to show you and help you become a better DPS, which means you have to use certain abilities. And if you don't, it's going to be a damage loss. So it's kind of, I'm stuck from it. I mean, I don't want to be in that situation. I'd rather have this balance where I don't have to worry about using movement mode abilities and just show you, like, if it's a rage guide, show you rage abilities rather than having to use like Knee Venom Boost because rage has like no supercharge that's good at range. And then it's like, well, there's some situations where you're not going to be able to get close to use Berserk, or if you do, you could die. And then it's like, well, if you're dead, then it's a massive damage loss. So there's situations where you can't use Berserk. And then Knee Venom Boost is just so convenient. So it's tough. I just wanted to make this video to show kind of where my perspective, like where I'm coming from. I'm still going to I'm not going to change how we do the guides now. When I do the guides, I want to bring you the highest rotations that I know of or that are possible. And then if they have movement abilities, then I'll try to make a non-super speed rotation and show that. It's going to be lesser damage. Sometimes it might be close, but it's going to be lesser. But at least I'll show it the rotation. But, I mean, I can't just not stop using Robot Psychic. That's like 300k passive damage. I mean, you're just going to give up 300k damage just because you don't want to use a Robot Psychic. Same thing with Knee Venom Boost. Am I going to give up a supercharge that clips? It gives me like, I think it's like 40% damage now, increase. And also increases your defense, but I mean more for the damage. So like I could use like Fireball Barrage and risk the projectiles missing, or just like not hitting. Or I could use Knee Venom Boost and just continue my rotation not being interrupted because I clipped with Knee Venom Boost. So I mean, like what? What do you want me to use? Do you want me to be like a cosplay fire and throw fireballs out of my hands? Or do you want me to be able to be doing consistent competitive damage? So, I mean, you can give me your point of view in the comment section. But, I mean, I don't think even making this video is not going to stop the comments saying, like, what about Dervish? Or, like, all your rotations are the same. Or, use different abilities. It's like, I'm at the mercy of DC and the balancing. So, take care, guys. We'll see you in the next video.